All right, thanks everyone for tuning in. I've got John Gordon Hill. Do there people say your entire name like that? Is that normal?
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I'm John, of course, but there's a lot of John Hills in the business. So
Oh yeah, nice to get that Gordon in there.
yeah,
Uh,
it is. Length. It's a very short name. Otherwise, it just goes right by.
yeah, that's right. That's right. If you're just tuning in, feel free to comment in the window if you have any questions or comments about what we're talking about, and we'll try to get to those as we see them appear. Um, so just briefly, for those that don't know John, I actually don't know that much about you. I remember singing in the St. Paul's Episcopal Choir um, in the early aughts with you, and some of my other singer friends were also there. But recently, Vox 16, now Radiance, did one of your pieces on our locally sourced program. So I know you as a composer and as a singer. Yeah, we did too. Yeah, we did too. So I know you as a composer, as a singer, but I know you do some other things. So before we get into, I guess, the meat of the conversation, maybe just tell people a little bit about you and what you do.
Okay. Actually, professionally, I'm a director and a cinematographer, and have been involved in film production and television production for like 45 years. I do a lot of network television, a lot of television commercials in the years gone by. I maybe directed like 400 television commercials. Shot a lot of shows for Fox, CBS, Discovery, A&E, Lifetime, and PBS. A lot of documentary work of late. Probably the last thing that played everywhere here was a documentary I made on the history of the 1962 Seattle World's Fair, which played on PBS. I've also been involved in education, taught and lectured at the University of Washington, and taught film production at Seattle Central College, and then was on a lot of organizations. I was on the board of trustees of Cornish College of the Arts for 11 years and was chair of the board for 3 years. So involved in a lot of issues around arts education and Cornish and music and theater and dance and everything else. And then I've also been involved with Youth Theater Northwest since its inception 35 years ago, and directed a lot of plays there, directed a dozen plays at Youth Theater Northwest. So done a lot of theater education with kids. So in addition to singing for the last 20 years, that's with the St. Paul's Choir, which is a real joy. And I get to work with a lot of people who are now in Radiance.
Yeah.
So shout out to all my friends who heard me singing next to them for years. And have always been involved in music as well. So I'm active in the early music scene, friends with a lot of the people you know, certainly Gus and other people. And I play the harpsichord and study with Johann Stoppels Dupree, and was planning on giving a harpsichord recital, and we know what happened to recitals. So
Yeah, we sure do.
So that's kind of in a nutshell my background. When all of this happened, when I think it was March 11th, Governor Inslee said that basically any venues larger than 250 was shut down immediately. And then within a few days after that, it was pretty much down to 10, and then it was down to 0. And all of my many friends who were performing artists were suddenly without venues, and it was very scary. Everyone was instantly unemployed. And so I wrote a Facebook post saying, we have all this production capabilities in this community and all of these performing artists. Can we put the two together and actually create a system and a situation where the performing artists who are without venues can suddenly have a place online to perform, to stream? Mm-hmm. Most people are involved in streaming it one way or another anyway, so it was not a completely new idea. But what we found in working this out, and as other people came on board and we hashed out and talked out the idea, the real problem was not so much production ability. I mean, Mark, you are a very good audio engineer and technical. So you have a lot of chops already. If I may take a moment, that Carolyn Shaw video that Radiance did, if you haven't seen it, Seek it out. It is the most beautiful thing I have seen. I can't tell you.
Oh, thank you, John. That's very kind of you.
Anyway, what we found was that people didn't know where to find this stuff. That everyone had their own little individual site. And so we thought, what we need to do is create a hub, a central aggregator for all Northwest performing artists. So audiences can just come to that hub and find their favorite artists and link through them, but also be able to surf that hub and discover new people that they hadn't come across before.
So John, you're talking about Northwest Arts Streaming Hub now.
Right.
Was this something that developed kind of as a response to the crisis?
Yes, absolutely. What happened was I put out this call on Facebook, and some people that I knew or people that were associated with them, particularly Lily Raby, who works for the company Scanduzzi Krebs, which is a very high-level, lovely arts advisory company. Lily got a hold of me and said, "This is great. What can we do?" And she has really been the driver, taken the ball and run with it, and assembled this really high-powered group of people. So Carlos Scanduzzi came in, who I've known for years. Joseph Krebs also came involved. John Bedino, who is a long-time video company and streaming company, and been involved a lot with major corporations here. All of these people started out, Lily, Carlo, John, Joseph, and really took the ball and ran with it. And that's the whole thing. You do something like this, you can't do it yourself, and you can't even begin to do it yourself. It's mostly about the people you attract. And right now we've got like an A team of some of the best connected, finest people in the arts scene and government that are actively involved in this. So yeah.
That's awesome. So it's been likened to, maybe by the Stranger article, like a Netflix for digital art streaming for Pacific Northwest artists. Is that going to just be for sort of local Pacific Northwest artists, or is this something that will expand?
Well, we've got like a bit of a proof of concept thing going on right now, right? So we're coming on board. We're saying, okay, this is the idea. This is what we're going to try and do, and let's see how it plays out. We want to start with Northwest because really we need to give aid and assistance to the people in our backyard, in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're trying to do. Because, if we opened it up right away nationally, I think we'd be, overwhelmed with, New York and LA and Chicago and everything else. So we really are trying to support our local artists and our emerging artists. But I would be lying to you if I said we hadn't thought about this in terms of it being a possible national thing. And the name NASH was chosen with the idea in mind that at some point we become the national arts streaming hub.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And we do love the Netflix analogy, because let's face it, we're all home alone. We're surfing Netflix all the time. It's an easy analogy for people to get. And I love that idea. You can go on and see featured works. This is hot right now. Check out this artist, and then each one of the categories of dance, music, theater, arts education, cabaret, all of these different aspects. We'll have buttons you can click through and go to those art forms and see the people who are working in those sites. And it won't just be organizations, again, individual artists and organizations there as well. But one of the big things we're trying to put in this is an income stream back to our artists. We want very robust, kind of friction-free donate buttons, paywalls. I feel that's appropriate.
Yeah.
So that it generates money back to the artists.
Yeah, I want to get into that a little bit later, because that's clearly a key part of this mission.
Yeah.
Though before that, is it up yet? And if not, when can we have a look? When will it be launched?
It's going to have a kind of a soft launch about midweek this week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Can I
we're this.
get on that soft launch viewing business, or is that just an
No, they can come on board as soon as that happens. The URL is going to be nwartstream.org.
Okay.
So if you're out there, get a pen and pencil, nwartstream.org, and check it out. Probably Wednesday, Thursday, in that vicinity. And we're gonna do, as they say, it's a soft launch kind of idea, but the idea is really that we're gonna have people, submitting work all the time. We put out applications for people to submit. We want as broad a range as we can, and then we're going to be also live streaming events. So there may be a big launch event that live streams that will draw viewers to NASH. But right now, our task is to put as many people out there on the idea that this thing exists. Check it out.
Yeah, I saw a few links going around for artists or organizations that wanted to submit content for the site. I did recently submit the Seattle Baroque Orchestra and Bird Ensemble Messiah there. So is that something you're inviting all artists to do, or only
Yes.
you? Okay.
The main thing for us is really we want to have a standard of quality for NASH. So we're really looking to say, send us as fine a quality audio and video as you can.
Yeah.
The other thing, though, is, and this is another aspect of NASH, is that for artists who don't have major technical chops in this world, in this realm, we're there for you. That if you have difficulties, or you're submitting something that's maybe not quite as good as you'd like it to be, or you have sound problems or whatever, we can lend mics, we can lend lights, we can send technical people to help you make the work better. And so we want to make sure that everybody has the option of creating as good a work as Markdavin Obenza does.
Man, that's very kind of you. Yeah, and just so everyone knows, we will post these links in the description here after this interview is over. This live interview will become just a normal video after we're done, so people can still share it around if they'd like. So can you tell us more about the concept of this? I mean, we know kind of its mission and what you wanted, the point of it, but can you tell us more about the experience of what it will be like to kind of interact with this new platform?
Well, the important thing to realize about it is it's an aggregation site. We'll take stuff from everywhere, and the stuff might live on YouTube, it might live on Vimeo, it might live on Twitch, it might live on any number of platforms. We're going to be putting up links, and like Facebook, you'll maybe stay inside the NASH world, but be linked through to where those particular works are being hosted. The experience for the audience member, somebody coming onto the site, is they'll come onto the site. There'll be banners where this is featured right now, or this is hot, or you can scroll through and see that. But then there will be buttons for each of the art forms, and say you click on music, there may be subdividing buttons of genres. So you have classical, jazz, or whatever. And once you click through there, there'll be basically a menu like you would see on Facebook or of Netflix, of artists, and basically you can say, oh, see this, or there's a live stream coming up, or click through to that. Once you click through to that, you'll have that particular work, and there may be a very prominent donate button, and the message of NASH will be clear. NASH is here to support the artists, and you're here because you want to see the artists. So if you love the artists and you love the work, give them $5, give them $10, give them something. Click through a donation. We think because of the reach of the internet, it might be even more lucrative than people think. That if for artists, if it's pulling in $500 or $1,000 a month, hey, that's something. And
yeah,
it might be more than that. The other thing that's very cool about it, of course, is it's the internet. People can be watching this stuff in Johannesburg and Singapore, and I mean, it's worldwide. So there's a chance that artists will be seen by audiences they would never reach otherwise, even particularly in a live venue.
So will you be mining links yourselves, or is this solely an artist sort of opt-in situation?
Well, we'll be soliciting people. It's a two-way street. You know, I mean, we want the artist to opt in because, I mean, there's the artists that are the kind of the no-brainer. You'd go to them anyway because, wow, you know, that of course they're major venues, major artists, whatnot. But we're kind of biased towards young, new, emerging artists. We want people that are trying to build audiences to come on board, to reach out to us, to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. And we can take a look at the work and say, yeah, that's, you know, NASH quality work. We will definitely host that.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that's really, really important, and it's baked into the concept from the beginning, is a strong commitment to racial and gender equity, and to reach out to artists and communities who've been traditionally underserved, so that we have as broad and diverse an offerings as we can, and that our offerings are all 100% accessible. So we're encouraging strong use of captioning in live performances where it's appropriate, to have ASL signing, and basically create, you know, from the very beginning, an idea that NASH is a platform that is an instrument for gender and racial equity in the arts, and for broadcasting to as wide an audience as possible, that we don't have any accessibility limitations or anything like that, or it doesn't just favor, you know, the major established companies and forums, but everybody.
Yeah, so it sounds like, is that going to be achieved by who you reach out to, or will that be reflected in the platform interface? Your mission to reach out to underserved communities. I think in the Stranger article, it said one of the goals is to spread the word and to help center racial, gender, and social equity on the platform. And that was actually one of my questions. Is that going to be reflected in how the platform is presented, or is that just a kind of reaching out, you know, to get more sort of diverse content on the platform?
Kind of both. I mean, you know, nothing's finalized yet, but we may have some particular simple manifesto presented on the platform. You know, that basically, this is what NASH stands for, and as a way of encouraging both audiences and artists to reflect that. But it also means that we need to be aggressive in reaching out to underserved communities and artists, and to make them feel like, yeah, this is for you. You're welcome here. Not only welcome here, we're actively seeking you out. It's not, you know, it's something we're trying to address in our content, and we do that by going to communities and saying, okay, we've seen your work, or we've heard about you from so and so. Can you please submit something? If you don't have something to submit, can we help you?
Yeah, I think that's actually a huge barrier for people. You know, we made that Caroline Shaw Radiance video, and which made the rounds. I mean, for our measurements, that basically went as viral as it could have possibly gone for us, a small Radiance group. But, you know, hearing back from, you know, I hear from other choral singers and directors that want to do the same thing. They just don't know how to do it. And in fact, I think I will do an episode about how, you know, how I do these things so people know. But I think a huge barrier for people getting their art out in digital form is just knowing how to do it, like the technology required and the understanding of the software. So I think that part of NASH, the sort of helping helping people getting people the tools to do it, to get their content out there is really important.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny too, because I mean, everybody watches TV, right? But they don't think much about it. They don't think about the lighting. They don't think about the composition. They don't think about the miking. They don't think about all of these issues. And then we have these things in our pockets. These smartphones, iPhones. They're awesome in terms of
Mm-hmm.
what they're capable of recording. I mean, you can do a full 4K movie. The thing that's sitting in your pocket, you can edit it on the iPhone and everything else. But you have to know how to do it.
Yeah.
And you have to think about it. You have to think about composition. You have to think about maybe the microphone in the iPhone isn't the best. Maybe you can supplement that with something that's not too difficult. Lighting's a huge issue. I mean, people, they create situations where suddenly they're just in silhouette because they've got this huge light source behind them, and you can't even see what's going on. So little advice and mentoring and training like that. Then you have old cameramen like myself going, "Don't hold your phone vertically, turn it sideways."
Yep. Yeah.
So all of these little things, that people, if they need help with a camera person, we can provide that. We can hook them up with really first class technical people who are doing this for a living. Maybe they don't. Maybe they just need advice. Maybe they just need mentoring. They just, saying, put the mic here, put the camera here, put the light there. Boom, you're good.
Yeah.
But we want to make sure that that's not weird arcane knowledge that only people who are in the video world know. That should be something everybody knows. Because, I mean, what we're doing right now, this is the world we live in, right? Everybody's watching screens, so you might as well have something good on the screen for them to watch.
This is a new world for all of us for the foreseeable future, so we got to get used to this. That's great. So we had a question come in.
Okay.
Let's see. A fellow singer, a wonderful soprano, Jolie Greenleaf,
Mhm.
asked this: can you address exactly how this helps artists? It sounds like you're asking for free content, which can be very expensive to produce. Yes, I do know this. To add to your site without payment to artists, except for possible donate buttons. Maybe I missed something here. I'd like to learn more.
Sure. Well, first we'll start with the fact that what we're trying to create here is a venue for the artists, and NASH itself will be funded 100% outside of NASH. We'll raise money out separately to fund things, and that means that any money that's generated through the site will go directly to the artist. The thing about, I mean, in other words, there's nothing, NASH offers this free to artists, but they asks for nothing in return. The artist doesn't pay NASH, the artist doesn't do anything back to NASH. NASH is funded outside of that, so that any monies that are generated, 100% goes to the artist. It's actually up to the artist how they want to monetize that. Certain artists, it may be appropriate to sell tickets to a live streamed event. It may make sense for certain artists to say, put it behind a paywall. So you subscribe to my podcasts or my streaming, and I get revenue that way. To other artists who are perhaps not as well known, don't think that they would be able to generate money, on the strength of their name because they're not well known, then it would be more appropriate for them to have the donate button, so that you see there's no cost to the viewer to experience their work. But once they're inside, they have the opportunity to contribute to the artist as they see fit. What we're providing is basically a free, wide-ranging, broad-reaching platform. And that's really what we're giving to the artists. So that's really the relationship. The idea is to say, this is a service for you as an artist to get your work in front of hundreds of thousands of people, millions even, we don't know, and at no expense to you. the cost of the creating the work, well, actually, that's a cost that everyone has to bear, and there are ways to defray that. We can help with that as well. But for us, we're going to have to keep NASH sustained just right at the beginning level. We're going to have to raise about $25,000 a month outside of this.
$25,000 a month?
Yeah, I mean, it's we're talking about a site that's managed with a staff. We're talking about there are all kinds of other financial and legal requirements we need to do to keep this site up. But we're going to raise that outside of NASH. It's not going to be something where we're taking a cut or we're taking 5% or 10% or anything like that. Yeah, the concept for us is 100% goes back to the artist. And so in answer to the question, NASH itself doesn't actually get anything from the artist. NASH creates a venue for the artist.
Yeah, it's a service that artists can use. Yeah.
It's as if we were providing a hall free of charge and saying, okay, you as an artist are paying nothing for this venue, but you will have to, sell tickets. You will have to, do what you do to raise the funds. But that's what the plan would be.
Yeah. So this all interests me because this relates to one of my main concerns today, about how digital media is so available now. The digital world, for better or for worse, has made media more accessible than ever before. So, people now can just get literally whatever content they want, using a streaming service that they pay not very much money for. In fact, people are, cater their playlist to their mood, and they've kind of lost touch with the artists that actually made them. So and with everyone on social media, the game now is about attracting people to your work by posting sort of free digital content, free versions of yourself, as I like to say. And it's odd to think in the not so distant past, artists were, maybe a generation ago, artists were able to make, money selling CDs and actually selling their content. So I've been thinking a lot about how artists now survive in this kind of landscape. And, when we're constantly, we'll make, as a recording engineer, we make the decision to, CDs are expensive, but, when we post a live recording of a piece from a concert, that'll get more attention and more clicks than a produced, recording that will release. And so we're constantly competing with free versions of ourselves. And so, I wonder how do artists make money now? One thing that's been interesting is the Patreon model, where people, and it sounds like you're going to include on NASH a donate button, but also the option to, pay that artist monthly or subscribe to that artist. And I wonder if NASH has considered being a subscription model like Netflix, where people can pay for the service, and that money can be distributed to the artists. That to me, my best answer for how we go forward as artists is, at the moment, advocating for some kind of subscription model, kind of like Patreon, where where people that subscribe to you or that pay you get exclusive content, and that artists like myself need to rethink just throwing everything on social media for free.
Yeah.
And I guess, have you thought about NASH being more of like a Netflix model in that sense?
Yes. I mean, let's back up to the start of NASH. I mean, where this whole idea originated was really about getting money to artists. I mean, that was
Mhm.
the point. Because all of our friends, all of our closest associates were suddenly without venues. I mean, they were unemployed. So the question was, what can we do to create an income stream back to the artists based on their work, based on their audience, based on what they do best? So they, provide the work, they post it on this site, and it can, or the link to it is posted on this site, which could be a link to a Patreon account. It could be a link to a subscription. I mean, so you basically say, yeah, here's how you subscribe to our work. In terms of NASH itself, I mean, never mind, we don't have any track record. We're literally brand new. We're just getting off the ground. So we need
Mhm.
to people to come to the site in the first place. And we had a sense that, if we were launching something that nobody knew what it was and we were charging people right off the get-go, we would have a hard time attracting viewers. I mean, people wouldn't take the chance, and that our feeling was for a lot of younger and emerging artists and people that aren't well known, it's also very difficult to set themselves up as a pay to play kind of situation, because people won't do it. They don't know what they're clicking through to. They
Yeah.
definitely pay to play for the Metropolitan Opera, the Seattle Symphony, or something like that, because that's a known quantity.
Right.
But we feel like those organizations will do well and they'll take care of themselves. But for smaller organizations and artists, you know, we need to give people an opportunity to see the work and then be able to pay for it as a result of that. It's the same conundrum you're wrestling with, Mark.
Yeah.
It's basically are looking at how much do we give away to attract an audience, and at what point are we giving away the store? I mean, we want to get paid for our work, and that's one of the things. For instance, Scanduzzi Krebs as a company is sort of teaching artists how to fish. The whole idea is, how do we set you up so you're getting compensated fairly for your work? You're right. The digital world has not been kind to artists. It's really beat up a lot of people.
Do you see NASH ideally becoming kind of a Netflix subscription service where people pay?
Everything's on the table. Honestly,
Uh-huh.
everything's on the table, and we're kind of seeing, like, for instance, if we suddenly start getting 100,000 unique visitors a day, we're going to be looking for ways to monetize that, to see, okay, if we go to a subscription service, are we suddenly going back down to 5,000 visitors a day? Or,
Yeah.
is it better to have a huge viewership and figure out other ways to get people to pay for the work? We don't know. We're feeling our way.
Yeah, this is brand new territory for anybody.
But the idea, when the phrase Netflix for the arts came up, that resonated with a lot of people, and
Mhm.
with us, it resonated, and it's sort of like, okay, maybe that is a good way to go, but we're not there yet. And we want to see, if we were to create a subscription service that where we split the revenues with the artists, that's a possible model. But then on the other hand, we want to look at that and say, well, honestly, what's the bottom line with that? Is more money going to the artists that way, or is more money going to the artists when you have an opportunity to pay directly to individual artists you like?
Yeah.
And time will tell. We'll find out. But I want to
Yeah.
make it clear that the objective of NASH, from its very first inception, is to support artists, to put money in the hands of artists. We're only raising money outside to support the superstructure that is NASH, the staffing and everything else that is NASH. That's all we're raising money for. It's not a for-profit venture. For those of us who are founders, we're actually on the money's going the other way. We put up the money to
Right.
launch. We put up the funds to start this. So we're actually donors, not recipients, just to make it clear.
Yeah, and it makes sense that with a new venture like this and a relatively unknown organization and service, you would you wouldn't want to start out asking, you know, people to pay to participate, or pay to watch rather. But yeah, it's all pokes at some really fundamental questions for me, like what is the real value of what artists offer?
Mhm.
You know, I mean, with so much of this content already, you know, Mozart's Requiem or the Handel's Messiah, why would you pay to watch, you know, the millionth performance of Handel's Messiah on this site when you can watch it for free on YouTube or on Facebook somewhere? And the only answer I can think of is maybe you do that because you want to support your, you know, a specific artist or your local artists.
Mhm.
Um, and and it also pokes at, for me, the difference between, you know, the value of a performance that we get people to attend and experience live versus a recording that we have produced so they can listen to it again and again. Um, the COVID era has not been kind to the performance ventures, and I think that's quite a special component of art that we as artists, as performers, need to capitalize on, especially as more of our digital content is more and more available, especially now. But we can't gather, so we that is on the back burner, making money off ticket sales to, and everybody's suffering in this way. Um, so I yeah, so I'm interested in how, in any efforts to kind of put, you know, like Nash, to put musicians first and to put money in their hands more directly. Does I don't know. I said a lot just now. Do you have any reactions to that?
Sure. I mean, you're really getting to the heart of the matter. You know, we really want to talk about this in broader, you know, philosophical, historical terms, where we are at this moment in time. There was some concern. Is this going to cannibalize audiences for live performances? I don't think so. I think it's going to whet their appetite for live performance. You know, if they're going to see something sensational, you know, if they're going to see your Carolyn Shaw video and go, "My God, that's gorgeous," the
Mm.
next time they see something, you know, Radiance is actually performing live somewhere, well, they're gonna have a reason to go see Radiance. I don't think, in fact, one of the things that's happened with the collapse of selling digital music as an income stream for musicians is the how live performances suddenly became much more crucial for all of for all levels. This is really where the money is for them, is in live performances and touring. Um, it's the same with live theater. You know, there's really no substitute for sitting in an audience, breathing the same air with the actors, watching them perform in real time what you're doing. Otherwise, you know, you could stay home and watch a movie, but it isn't the same experience.
Mhm.
So we're getting to the heart of what that's about. Nash, if it works at its best, will be able to put the work that would normally be playing in front of 1 or 200 people in front of thousands of people, so that when the opportunity to go comes to see that stuff live, they know what it is.
Yeah.
And the Messiah has been done a zillion times, but they want to see, you know, Stephen Stubbs' Messiah. They want to see, you know, a local artist who they know do what they do best. Um, and I think that that's really what we're talking about, is to say, let's take this as a platform to get the work out to audiences in the broadest possible way. The COVID-19 lockdown will end someday. It will be painfully slow. It will take much longer than any of us want it to. The venues aren't going to open up tomorrow. You know, we're not going to be having concerts in June. You know, it's just, you know, it's just we those of us who are looking at the situation realistically know how painful it is. But when it does pass, and it will pass, and live performance comes back on, this will still exist. It will still be there. And suddenly, people who have companies and have arts that they're offering to the public will see streaming as a part of the offer. It'll be part of their income stream. It will be part of what they do when
Yeah.
they first. They'll be thinking in terms of how do we shoot this? How do we videotape this? It will be in the mix, and Nash will be there as a part of what they do. So they can say, okay, we're performing this at these dates and this venue, but it's also on Nash. And we may strategize about what do we put on Nash. We may put a teaser. We may put 5-10 minutes on Nash. We may with a donate button, but to say, or here, this is click here to buy tickets.
Yeah.
There it is. So we haven't even begun to explore all the ways in which this can help artists, but we need to think about it in terms of what it was initially intended to do, which is to put money in the hands of artists, to support artists, and to basically create income streams and ways in which artists become compensated for their work. Is it fair? We don't know, but that's what it'll be.
Yeah. So one more question here from Jolly. Do professional artists need another platform where they provide content without compensation? This is a genuine question. Would this not be a more suitable platform for amateur musicians who have other primary sources of income?
Well, to answer Jolie, the reason this came about is professional musicians working at the highest level are out of work. They don't have a venue. They've got nothing right now, literally. Broadway actors aren't working. Opera singers aren't working. I mean, the artists at the highest level aren't working. So Nash came about as a way to say, okay, let's try and create something using what everybody has in their home, the internet, as a way of building and getting audiences for artists. Artists will make the choice. They may say, you know what, I think I'm performing for free. I'm not getting compensated properly. I don't want to participate. That's a choice. You can say, I don't want to do that, and that's fine. This is, something that people will make up their own minds whether they want to list on Nash or not. And some people may be resistant to it. If an artist says, I don't want to perform for free and I feel like I'm not being compensated for my hard work, boy, I get that. That is a sad experience for so many fabulous, fabulous performers. And it's like, yeah, I want you to get lots of money for this. I want you to be well compensated. So I get it, Nash is not a for-profit venture. It's not a situation where we're trying to exploit artists to build up our website. Kind of the opposite. We're trying to provide a website so artists can make money. How they do that and how it works for them, well, as I said earlier, we're kind of learning. We're making this up as we go along. If we become the Netflix for the arts, that'll help everybody. Rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah, for me, the point of posting content anywhere online, is for attention. Attention is the currency now for everybody that's trying to sell their stuff on social media. Why post on YouTube? Well, because maybe, one of their billion or however many they have, people will run into it and get exposed to your work for free, and that's a very low barrier for people to get exposed to your stuff. You wonder if there will be a cultural movement for people that will just kind of like in other aspects of our life, like organic food or other kinds of things like that, where there's a cultural movement to buy local or to to support local artists, like this is starting off as that might generate some interest to because of the cause. People will be attracted to consuming their art this way. But that is, do artists need another platform where they provide content without compensation? Well, no. But that's yeah, that of course not. Ideally, we live in a world where this is more fairly done, where artists can live a a fair life. But it also does talk to make me think about what the value is of what we do. Like if at some point, I always wonder, and this might be kind of a hot topic, but like what is your real value of your art? What is that monetarily? What do you feel like you deserve? And that, unfortunately, I think a lot of those factors are outside our control. And like there are really great singers making a ton of money, or I should say really bad singers making a ton of money, and really good singers not making very much money. So it's just the nature of the beast on some level.
It's not. It hasn't been, sadly, a meritocracy. You and I know great, fabulous musicians that were going like, "Why aren't you famous? You're incredible."
Mhm.
And people are attracted to fame. I mean, that's what that's what draws people to celebrity. It can be incredibly maddening when you work so hard at your art and you see somebody who's basically just coasting and they're famous. So yeah, I think that what this lockdown is doing for in a larger sense, I think, in my opinion, it's an opportunity to hit a giant reset button on
Yeah.
so many levels. Everything has been disrupted, and we get to choose what gets reinstated when this all comes back. And some things will be better off left behind. But one of the hopefully nice things that would come out of this is the idea that I like local art. I want to support my local artists. I like what's being done in my own backyard. I didn't even know. I never saw this stuff before. I never ventured across it. It never came across my radar. So all of a sudden, here's an opportunity for me to look at stuff and go, wow, this is in my neighborhood. This is right down the street. These guys are great. I
Mhm.
want to support this. I want to be a part of this. Or even more to the point, when we talk about underserved communities, they might say, these people are telling my story. These people are talking my language. These people share a background with me and a belief system with me and everything else. I want to be a part of that. I want to support that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was always a hope that the internet might be a democratizing influence and a leveling influence, that you lowered the bar for national and international exposure. You didn't have network gatekeepers that were preventing this from happening, or record labels that were preventing that from happening. You were able to just go out and do your thing, and there it was, and people would find it. Well, as we know now, people have trouble finding it. That it gets buried in the millions and millions and millions of offerings on the net. So
Mhm.
aggregating places like NASH is a way to cut through the noise and to say, okay, here's the best of our Northwest art for your perusal right here. You just come to this one site. You don't have to search all over the internet to try and find these people. You just come to this one place and there they are.
Mhm.
And so, it says, okay, here's an opportunity to hit the reset button on the creation of audiences, on the building of audiences, on the getting your work out there, and hopefully, and again, we're trying to have this baked into the actual DNA of NASH. The idea that we have as a priority setting up and creating ways for artists to make money for their work. We're not going to beat around it. We want artists to make money because we want artists to prosper and we want them to survive. If they don't prosper and survive, what's the whole point? We don't have an arts community then. I mean, Seattle's lucky. We can punch way above our weight in terms of the quality of our art here. Our music scene is astonishing. Our theater scene is amazing. You know, we're an international hub of dance. There are things happening in this community that are just way bigger and way better than it should be given the size of our population. And part of that is we've had a tradition of supporting the arts. But now the landscape has changed. So NASH is a lot of the people who supported the arts monetarily, upfront, when it was only live performance, they're the people who are coming together to try and make NASH happen. And they're putting up money to make that happen too. And the whole object there is to create, again, this platform that cuts through the noise, that makes the artists household names in their own community. You know, I want people to think of choir music, choral music, and go, Radiance, oh my God, have you heard those guys? They're sensational.
Well, John, that's so great, and I'm really happy you and your team are really after it here and trying to help us out. I think we've touched on a lot of different topics. Is there anything you wanted to add before we wrap this up?
Stay tuned. You know, check out in the next week or so.
So it'll be it'll be launched middle of this week, you said?
Yeah, we don't have a hard date yet, but the last thing I heard was going to be Wednesday or Thursday. But we want your feedback. I mean, I think that the comments that we've had here today were very on point, very germane, and it's exactly the kind of feedback that we're going to need as we build this and as we find ways going forward. But I think people need to understand what the motivation for this was, and the motivation is give artists a way to be compensated for their work and a way to reach and build new audiences, reach out to underserved communities, stand by the principles of gender and racial equity, and really create a new venue and a new platform that artists and arts organizations can use to build themselves up and to create the audiences and the income streams that compensate them for the amazing work that they're doing. I mean,
yeah, that is exactly what we need now. And I really, if I just might end with that subscription idea that where people do pay, I mean, that would be a bold move. I don't know if there's a funding. I mean, this would require much more funding than what probably you are all have in mind. But just even that would be, I think, the first kind of service to, if you did offer some money, even if it wasn't very much, you know, for when someone listens to one of the pieces we've made available on Apple Music or Spotify, we get, every time they listen, a fraction of a cent, like 3 or 4 decimal places over. It's incredible. It's almost offensive. And there
are thousands of listens, and we've got enough for a cup of coffee.
Yeah, but you know, this could be a position where, you know, where you can take this, take NASH and have a cultural, you know, we can culturally kind of pivot to this idea of hey, you know, and I think this is becoming more and more in people's minds, is that we need to support artists like, you know, like normal. Like, we shouldn't take what they do for granted. And if there was such a thing where they can, you know, give money a month for a subscription like this, you know, for some kind of peace of mind that they are doing their part to support local art, then you know, it might take off, you know, more than we think. But I guess you're in a much better position to gauge whether that would be helpful or not. But that would be an aggressive, unheard of move.
It's in the cards. Okay, I mean, it's something that we need to see if this thing has legs, if it's going to work, if it's going to take off, if we have build audiences. And there may quickly come a point where we go, well, let's take a look at a subscription service. Is that gonna work? Is that gonna make sense? Are people gonna pay for that nominally? And then can we, create income streams that way back to the artists?
Mm-hmm.
But the whole thing is, this is kind of artist run. I mean, people, like the nonprofit we're running through right now is the Northwest Film Forum, but then we've got the Seattle Office of Arts and Culture people involved, and Arts Corps people involved, and people like Vivian Phillips, who are have been everywhere, and these are people who have been at the heart of art in this community, and they're all part of this effort. So you can say a lot of the decisions about what we do and what we don't do, where we go, where we don't go, is going to come out of this broad community-based advisory board that is heavy with artists. It's basically artist-centric. We don't have any suits, and that's where those decisions will be made, and they'll be looking at it from the standpoint of what works the best. I love the idea of a Spotify that actually pays people for their work. I mean, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're there yet, but we might be. I mean, we have broad ambitions for something that hasn't even launched yet. So that's all I can say.
Okay. Well, great. Thanks so much, John. And I look forward to the reveal midweek, and we'll make sure to post all the relevant links in the description of this episode here. So,
well, thanks. I really appreciate the opportunity. Take care.
All right. Thanks so much, John.
Talk to you later.